Hi, welcome back to Desperate to Be Well YouTube channel. And one of the things that I like to cover is how to take the information we receive and to look at it differently. And so that's what this video is going to be about. So let's get started. So for this particular video, I want to talk to you about a reel that came across my Instagram feed. It was talking about how 99.99% of people with autoimmune disease have joint pain. And so it was kind of interesting listening to what he had to say and the comments that followed. And so I wanted to share with you three points that I noticed and I interpreted from the feed that I was watching. So what I found to be so interesting about this reel is that it aligns up with the different things that I have discovered about DISH. And if you don't remember what DISH is, or if this is your first time to this YouTube channel, what DISH stands for is Defensive Individual Shield Hypothesis. And in a nutshell, it's something that I believe that our body has, and it's a complementary system that involves the lymphatic system and the nervous system. And so I won't go into that on this video because that's what my whole website's about, and you can look at it down below, but I'll also include a link that gives you a summary of what that's about. And so, but for now, the reel was talking about how this chronic pain happens to 99.99% of the people who have autoimmune disease. And then the source of the pain, he was saying, is lymph, excess lymph. And excess lymph is what causes our DISH to break. And so in my book, Health Backwards, an original look from a different perspective, it'll explain that in detail. So the common belief is that autoimmune disease is when the body is attacking itself. Well, my philosophy and this DISH is looking at it differently. And the way I'm looking at it is the body is not attacking itself. It's still doing the same job. But what's making it look like it's attacking itself is it's receiving false information. And the false information is being received by a faulty DISH. And so the lymph being connected with the autoimmune totally lines up with my DISH philosophy. Okay, before we go too far, here's my disclaimer. This is not medical advice. In fact, this is more like letting you in through the back door of finding out what's new out there, because this is a hypothesis I'm sharing. It's not a theory. And a hypothesis is something that needs to be tested and tested and tested. Well, I don't have any peers to help me test and test and test. So I'm doing it the old school way, like how Galileo did it, and he figured out his findings and he just published it to the public. And so that's basically what I'm doing, is I'm sharing it with the public. And he mentions that the lack of movement would be a solution to this lymph problem. And so this is where I put on my disher glasses, as I call it, and I look at it differently. And so the misunderstanding here is that he assumed that because it was painful to move, we didn't want to move. And therefore we didn't move, and therefore the lymph got worse. Well, I think that's a disconnect. And I feel sorry for people who are in that rut of thinking that way and being stuck. And so I've been down that road as well. And so, but with the DISH, it makes a change. Because as far as the lack of movement goes, I think it's more about self-preservation. And what I mean by that is when DISH is broken or is not working properly, and it occurs when we're in what I call the danger zone. And the danger zone is when there's too much lymph, like he was saying, but there's something happening when there is too much lymph. And what is happening is we have good guys, the nutrients, hormones, stuff we need, and we have the bad guys, what the body's trying to fight. Well, in the danger zone, these get mixed and combined. And what happens is 3 types of batches could be formed. There could be a heterogeneous batch, there could be a homogeneous batch, and there could be a mimicker batch. And basically the word batch just means the different combinations of guides, so to speak. And so, and in the batch, it determines what happened when the danger zone had too much lymph there. And so, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated, because I think we go into self-preservation mode is why some of us don't want to move when our lymph is causing us issues. Because of those 3 batches, one of them, the heterogeneous one, could correct itself just by getting the lymph moving. But in my experience, the other 2, homogeneous and mimicker, getting the lymph moving only made me sicker. And so, or more inflammation, or more, whatever you want to call it, symptoms, more symptoms, whatever you want the symptoms to be, they always change, right? And so that is the difference, that's where the disconnect, I think, happens. And the third thing I want to point out here is absolutes are kind of danger zones. He did not give a reference to what the 99.99% have pain. He had no documentation to back that up. And so absolutes are dangerous, and because it's not an all or nothing, because I mean, they wouldn't have those gazillion warnings at the end of all those drug commercials if the drug worked, right? And so the same is true as far as, you know, if you looked at the comments on this reel, they're like, well, that's not me. I don't have pain, but I have autoimmune disease. Well, that's not me. I have this, and, you know, and it goes on and on. Well, okay, yeah, maybe he generalized too much. I'm not sure. I can't judge him. I haven't seen what he's seen as far as the documentation and stuff like that. But something I would like to suggest is that the reason that the comments and what he was saying were contradicting each other is, I think, because of dish. Because if you have a faulty dish, for me, no matter what methods I did, it didn't work. But when I manually did what this dish should be doing automatically, the methods would then work. And so to me, I think a more accurate statement would be to say that anybody, if we want to make an absolute, who has an autoimmune disease has a faulty dish. And with a faulty dish, the body thinks good guys are bad guys, and they're trying to get rid of them, and the inflammation becomes worse, I think, because the body can't operate on no good guys. And so it's trying to stop the loss of these good guys. And so, and that lines up with what the people say about autoimmune disease if they look at it in the common way, where they think the body's attacking itself and they try to suppress the immune system so that the body quit attacking itself. Whereas in dish, the body's not attacking itself, and the way to fix it isn't to suppress the immune system, but to provide the correct programming for the body so the body can continue to do what it was meant to do. Two sides of one viewpoint, and I'm just sharing how I dissect the information I see and how whenever I put in the dish possibility, it just makes sense. So this reel, I think, is just another example of how we are looking at the answer of the autoimmune disease and we just don't realize it yet. He knows it's the lymph, and he knows it's excess lymph, but we're just missing that tiny little jump, because I think the last I've heard is like there's at least 80 different types of autoimmune diseases, and they have different symptoms, attack different parts of the body. Everything's unique about it, except the one thing. There's like a predisposition, which we don't know what that predisposition is, but I'll get a YouTube video going for you on that, and I'll put it down below once I have it. But I believe the predisposition is a faulty dish. And so if we factor in that, so much more makes sense. dismiss, hey, this doesn't work. I don't know she doesn't know what she's talking about. The concept is very simple, but implementing it, it's more difficult. And I'm working on a system to get that to where it is easier for people to see the big picture of the hard part of doing this. And so it's not in place of any method. It is a complement to the method. Like I said earlier, or in previous videos, is that if dish isn't working, I do something, and then I'm making dish work. And when dish is working, whatever I do to cure my illness or to get rid of a symptom will work, whereas before it would not. So if you would like to know more about dish, the easiest way would be to sign up for my Disher's Digest newsletter. It comes out the 1st and the 15th of each month. Keep it simple. And there's, you can check out my Desperate to Be Well website or other YouTube videos, or you can check out my book, Health Backwards, an original look from a different perspective. And I go by the pen name of Cindy White. So there you have it.